It was a late night at the state capitol. Lawmakers debated bills up until the midnight deadline for crossover day. Bills that passed get to move on to the other chamber, including House Bill 1285, also known as the Georgia SNAP Healthier Choices Act of 2026. It bars people from buying certain food and drinks using SNAP benefits. But bills that did not pass, like Senate Bill 568, are done for this session. That legislation would have required eligible voters to be posted and made public before each primary or election. It would have required early voting to happen at assigned precincts instead of at any precinct like it is now. And it would have moved elections to paper ballots instead of the touchscreens currently used. And it looks like sports betting is still not coming to Georgia. House Resolution 450 would have put it on the ballot to give you a chance to vote for a constitutional amendment to make it legal. There is bipartisan support for the idea, citing the money that sports betting brings in, but people against it say it's addictive. We have a special live edition of On the Record tomorrow morning. Rick Folbaum and Doug Reardon are going to break down all the big moments from crossover day. It's at a special time tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. right after Atlanta News First Sunday Morning and streaming on ANF+.